everybody, and welcome to my channel, which is a Lizard Reads. I just wanted to introduce you guys a little to me and my channel. So, because it's brand new and we're just starting, and I'm so excited to be here and a part of BookTube and a part of YouTube and a part of Instagram, and just share the joy that I get from reading and myself, because I'm very entertaining. Not really. I don't know what to do with my hands. So anyway, I'm Liz. I am from a small town in Idaho. And if you don't know where Idaho is, it's just a little bit that way from California and up. I don't know if my arrows are right. The other part is I'm very dyslexic. So for me in the beginning, reading was horrible. I hated it. And it was because it was embarrassing. It was hard. I couldn't get my words together in my brain. And so it took a really long time. My mom was great and she introduced me into audiobooks, and that changed my world. I started reading books like there was no tomorrow. And there's certain series that I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't read that again because I read it like 50 million times because there was nothing better at the library. So audiobooks really changed my life. And then it started with young adult books. I was able to finally start reading those. But it wasn't until I was probably 14 or 15 that I just could understand enough with my dyslexia. So it's kind of cool. I do 90% of my reading with Audible. I love it. I think they're the greatest because I'm able to multitask. I am married and I have a beautiful little girl who is 7. She is awesome. And so is my husband too. But it lets me read while I'm working, while I'm doing dishes, while I'm doing laundry, while I'm playing a game on my phone, while I'm sitting next to my daughter while she's going to bed, things like that. Like, I can always have a book on. And just a brief introduction to kind of like get you used to kind of what I like to read and what I watch for. I'll share with you my 3 all-time favorite books ever. And these are ones that made a huge difference on me as a reader and as a person. I don't know. Anyway, so number 1, of course, is Harry Potter. I love these books. I love this series. It was one of those first books that my mom did bring in an audiobook and that I was able to listen to. And I just got lost in the world. I absolutely am obsessed. For the last 2 years with Christmas, we are super lazy and we're not going to take down our Christmas tree for probably a couple more weeks. You know, it has to be around the end of January before I'll consider taking down the tree. I'm cool like that. But anyway, so the last 2 years for Christmas, my husband has just gotten me Harry Potter gifts, and it's my favorite. And the last 2 years, we were lucky to go to Harry Potter World at Universal Studios in Orlando. And I got things like this cool shirt with Harry casting the Expelliarmus charm. Not the Expelliarmus charm. Oh my goodness. With Harry casting the Patronus charm and all the Dementors like coming up. Nobody ever really realizes that this is a Harry Potter shirt right away, but I love it. Anyway, and so this series, not only is it one that's really sweet and I'm able to remember moments of reading it, so like reading the 5th book with my family on a family vacation, or reading the 7th book when I couldn't get the audiobook in time, and so I had to struggle through reading it with my eyes. And it was so weird because it was like I had never actually read the hard copy books, and so I would be like, oh my goodness, is that how they spell Seamus? Like, whoa. And no wonder I used to fight with people on how to say Hermione because, like, yeah, I could see it being Hermione, but I just always heard it said this way. And so I was like, no, it's said this way. And so that was really cool because I did have to read the last book with my eyeballs. And it was a fun new experience, but then I was also able to listen to it again, and I caught on a little more, I think, because I didn't have to use my eyeballs. But anyway, that's just a different perspective. And I just love this series. I feel like it's been something that has been able to help me realize how little I know about the world and how little I know about other cultures. And so with my area, with my region, we didn't have a lot of issues with, setting other groups aside and treating them so poorly and badly, at least not in the region I lived in. And so I was able to see how horrible it was, like how heartbreaking it was when Hermione was called a mudblood, and how other people took it and helped her. And so I think it's helped me see that and watch for that, and just is something that I became aware of that I didn't as I was growing up naturally. And so that was just something that I thought was really beautiful. Book number 2 is Delirium by Lauren Oliver. I loved this series. I know when everybody was reading all the books, the dystopian novels, everybody was obsessed with other series, and this one was kind of under the rug. And I feel like when it comes down to it, like, there was a million series that were dystopian at this time, and this one was just the one that spoke to me the most. I loved this series, the whole series, and I loved the stories. I don't know why it's one of my favorite books, but it's one I can read over and over and over and over again. And I think it's just because ultimately she's trying to do the best that she can. She's trying to help others. She's trying to be good, but she's also trying to figure out what the heck she is doing here on this earth and what, like, her point is. And I think that was beautiful. I think that it's beautiful that she realizes that there's 2 kinds of love out there. There's the kind of love you get by, like, Zing, like Hotel Transylvania number 3 or number 2 or number 1, where they're talking about that Zing moment where you just see the person and you're like, yes, I like you. I want you to like me back because, I think we could be great. And so she has that moment, and then, there's the other one where she develops a friendship first and then realizes this person could be comforting, and maybe I should try a relationship with them because they're comforting and they'll be there for me and be somebody. And I loved that because sometimes there are those 2 different sides of love, but sometimes you can find both of that in the same person. And that's how I feel with my husband, at least. It wasn't a super, like, zing moment, but it was like, oh my goodness, he's really cute. I really like him. And we're going to start dating as soon as I can get him to notice me. And then it was a lot of random actions trying to get him to notice me. It was very fun. But it didn't take long. He noticed eventually. And now, 9 years later, we're married. And it's just really fun. And so, I enjoyed that book. I love that book. And that's just one of my favorites because I can read it over and over. And I do about every 6-month reading of it just to kind of get that feeling of love and everything back in my heart. And not that it leaves, but just to be reminded, because sometimes you'll be reading dark, dark books. And so when I need something light and fluffy, I read that. My 3rd book that I absolutely love is called Wolf Tower by Tanith Lee. This is a book I don't think I've met anybody else who's actually read this book without me recommending it to them first. It was very underrated. This was published in 2001, so, like, it's a very old book. But I just remember reading it for the first time and being obsessed. It was one of those first books, again, that I read, but I read it with my eyes because it wasn't popular enough to get an audiobook, at least not one that I've ever found. I was just obsessed with this story about this girl in a different world, not our world, who was raised in a house where she was a slave. And it was, you were royals or you were slaves. And it was one or the other. And it was in this garden that was in this huge desert called the Waste. And they had told, all the royal people had told the slaves and everything that there was nothing outside the Waste. The Waste was just death. Like, that was the punishment. That was the death sentence. If you broke the rules, was you got expelled into the Waste. And everybody just knew that was a death sentence. Like, you were done. You were dead. And so she steals this book and she starts writing a journal. And I thought it was beautiful. Like, just her experiences, because she's not very coordinated. She doesn't know anything. I mean, she's a slave in a house and she doesn't have an education. Like, she knows how to write and you don't really actually know why she knows how to write, but she does. And then she has this experience where this guy comes in on a hot air balloon and just throws their world into pieces, and she ends up running away with him into the Waste. And she's kind of like, no, we're gonna die. And he's like, no, I'm Cocky Snooty Buns, and we're not going to die, we're going to go to my world. And then she's seeing all these cities, and the cities I think Tanith Lee just did an amazing job with, because some of them are silly, and some of them are real, and some of them have sweetness. And some of them are dark. But there's like the sweetest story, the sweetest city you come upon first. Everybody speaks sheep, and they speak ba 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 ba, and things like that. And it's just funny for her because she's like, whoa, there is stuff outside the waste, but it's a village full of people who talk like sheep, you know? So I thought that was really entertaining. It does get a little weird going on into the other books. There's some more storyline and the obligatory, you know, they're separated, they have to come back together storyline. But I enjoyed it. Now, I have realized now that I'm a more educated reader and that I've grown up that it's a little basic for me to read. And it's something that's a little harder for me to read because it is something that I just don't get as much from anymore. But I still love the story. And so a lot of the time when I read it, I'll read a page or two, get the story, and then like close my eyes, get ready to go to sleep, and let the story play in my head, how I remember how it continues. And then I'll do the same thing the next night. And so that gives me more than just reading it myself because I'm able to like play the little movie in my brain. And I really loved doing that. I love that about reading is that story you have in your brain. You know, that feeling where you read the book, like I know a lot of us had with Harry Potter, like you've read the series first and you have the movie in your brain. And so you like go to the movie and you're like, okay, now you have to match this. Not yours, my movie. At least with this book, it's allowed me to do it because it was never popular enough to get a movie. And so I'm able to just always play that movie in my head. Anyway, I hope you guys have gotten to know me a little better and just have gained a knowledge of who I am as the lizard. I got the name Lizard when I was little. That was the number one nickname that I was always called when I was little. And if you knew me before I was like 5, you probably called me Lizard. Either Lizard or Lizzie. And it's a name that a lot of my family still calls me. There's nothing more awkward than being in your high school senior English class with your aunt as the teacher and having her be like, Lizard, tell us about Uncle Joe's cabin. And you're like, thanks. Now everybody's going to call me Lizard. And oh my goodness. So, but it's something that's very endearing now. And it's something that I love. And it reminds me of, you know, my family and who I love. And so, and I'm all about that kind of stuff, as you can tell. And I hope you could tell in this video. And so I'm just really excited to be here and to be able to share with you guys the things that I love. And if you're excited to see what I'm reading and see what I'm talking about, then please give it a like and subscribe to the video and follow me on Instagram, and I'll share more of my personal life and things like that there and my experiences, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I hope you have a wonderful day and you get to enjoy the day and you can enjoy reading because that's something I absolutely love to do. Have a great day. Bye.